Companies that are seeking to acquire a customer 360 and a single source of truth of their data, they usually fall into one of two categories. Either they have their legacy systems that may have been written a decade or two ago that have some outdated business logic that nobody has really questioned and has just been sort of running quietly in the background for a long time on some legacy data, or the alternate is that they are on more of a modern stack, but they're using a lot of different tools, and the data is siloed in those tools, and nobody at any point is bringing that all together and getting like a comprehensive view of everything. So in the former category, when we're on legacy systems, really that comes down to creating a modern data pipeline and embracing the modern data stack. And the biggest challenge there is the change management from the business users. They have their place that they're comfortable going to retrieve their data and their numbers. And I've seen it even that sometimes the new system is within 1 to 2% of reporting the same number, but because it's not literally the same number, certain departments will just like completely throw out the new numbers. So this really comes to hiring an internal data team that's familiar with the modern data stack, or obviously getting a consulting company to do that for you, and then performing a reconciliation exercise. And really, the key there with the reconciliation of saying, okay, the old numbers are this, the new numbers are this, is not to say just because the numbers are not equal that the new numbers are incorrect, but rather, can we explain why the new numbers are different? And ultimately being comfortable with, as long as it's in a certain ballpark, if it's an order of magnitude different, it is not a good idea to just accept the new numbers unless we can prove the old numbers are very much incorrect. So that's the hardest thing. And then at some point, shutting down the legacy systems. Because if those never shut down, then folks who actually work in the business and use the data are never forced to adopt the new data stack for their own uses. So if companies fall into the latter category where they are on a more modern architecture using modern tools, but their data is siloed between different platforms, usually the first step is, again, centralizing the data in a data warehouse, but really going back to the source systems. So not just pulling from the tools that the marketers, the sales teams, et cetera, are using, but what are the source systems that are feeding into these platforms? Getting the data at the earliest upstream source possible, and then bringing that data into the data warehouse. Because otherwise, you get into the situation where now the end platform is now your source, but that end platform may have business logic, transformations, data quality, deduplication or eliminating of rows, and it can become extremely tricky to get to your single source of truth that way. So the first step, ingest from all the upstream sources into the data warehouse. And then again, at this point, this is when you're going to want to perform your reconciliation exercise with figuring out how different are the numbers, are we comfortable with the new numbers, and then creating new pipelines from the data warehouse to these end platforms, sending only the minimum data necessary, and then terminating the connection from the source systems directly to the end platforms, such that you have more of a hub and spoke model with the hub being your centralized data warehouse.